First Contact Protocol. The archives of the Galactic Union recorded the discovery of Sol 3 as nothing more than a routine astronomical survey. A Class M planet circling an unremarkable yellow star, harboring carbon-based life at technological phase 3.7, early space exploration, crude fusion experimentation, and the first tentative steps toward quantum computing. The discovery warranted nothing more than a standard observation protocol and periodic assessment. That was the Galactic Union's first mistake. Admiral Vexilor of the Sentinel Fleet still remembered the first images transmitted from the cloaked observation satellites. Bipedal mammals with sparse fur coverage engaged in their primitive rituals of commerce and conflict. Their cities sprawled across the planet's surface, belching hydrocarbons into the atmosphere. Their oceans teemed with waste. Their nations quarreled over arbitrary boundaries. Unimpressive, he had remarked to his senior staff. Another few centuries before they're worth diplomatic contact. Science Officer Trillax, a methodical eight-limbed Arcturian, flicked her third eye in disagreement. There are anomalies in the data, Admiral. Explain, Vexilor commanded, his tendrils twitching with mild irritation. He'd overseen first contact with 17 species. Anomalies were rarely cause for concern. Trillax projected a series of graphs. Their technological advancement curve. It doesn't match established patterns. The display showed the typical sigmoid curve of technological development observed across hundreds of sentient species. Slow initial growth, rapid acceleration during industrial and information ages, followed by the plateau of systemic limitation as species confronted the constraints of physics and resources. Earth's line showed no sign of plateauing. A statistical aberration, Vexilor dismissed. All species reach equilibrium. Not this one, Admiral. Trillax insisted. Observe their warfare technologies. New images appeared. Crude projectile weapons giving way to atmospheric craft, fission bombs yielding to precision-guided munitions, all within the span of a single Earth century. Most species develop technologies to solve environmental challenges, Trillax continued. These, humans, they innovate fastest when trying to destroy each other. Vexilor felt his dermal sacs contract, the closest his species came to a frown. Recommendation: enhanced observation, perhaps a limited survey team. And so the Union dispatched its first mission to Earth. 5 of the Union's finest cynoanthropologists, equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology, tasked with collecting cultural and biological samples to better understand these anomalous humans. They never returned. The emergency beacon activated 63 cycles later, deep within a facility labeled Area 52, in the human dialect called English. By the time a retrieval team arrived, the survey team was gone. So was their ship, and their equipment, and every scrap of Union technology they had carried. The retrieval team found only a message, scrawled in Union Standard on a primitive cellulose sheet. Thanks for the gifts. We'll be in touch. The Galactic Union Council convened an emergency session immediately upon receiving the retrieval team's report. Vexilor stood before the assembled representatives of 800 worlds, feeling the weight of his failure pressing down upon his exoskeleton. How could this happen? Demanded High Counselor Ziv, her photosynthetic fronds quivering with agitation. Our cloaking technology is impenetrable to species below Advancement Index 6. These humans are barely at 3.7. Vexilor's voice remained steady. We don't know yet. The retrieval team found evidence of detection arrays operating on principles we haven't encountered before. The humans appear to have developed methods to detect gravitational microdistortions. Impossible, huffed the Rigelian ambassador. Even we only mastered that technology 800 cycles ago. Nevertheless, Vexilor continued. They detected our team, captured them without alerting our monitoring stations, and are now in possession of Union technology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Science Officer Trillax stepped forward, her appendages clutching a data slate. New intelligence, Admiral. We've detected unusual energy signatures from the planetary surface. On the central holodisplay appeared images of human facilities, seemingly ordinary until spectral analysis revealed the truth. Energy patterns identical to Union quantum matrices. The humans were already attempting to integrate stolen Union technology with their own. "How long?" asked Vexlor, his voice barely audible. "At observed rates of human innovation, and accounting for the technology they've acquired." Trelax's calculation tentacles wreathed anxiously. They could develop interstellar capability within 5 Earth years, possibly less. The Council erupted in pandemonium. 5 years, an eye blink in galactic terms. Species typically took centuries to advance from planetary to interstellar travel, carefully guided by Union contact teams to ensure peaceful integration into the galactic community. 5 years of uncontrolled human advancement, spurred by stolen technology and their bewildering propensity for weaponizing every discovery. High Counselor Siv raised all 4 of her limbs, demanding silence. "We face an unprecedented situation. A pre-contact species with Union technology. Admiral Vexlor, your assessment." Vexlor had spent 3 decades upholding the Union's principles of non-interference and peaceful coexistence. Now, staring at the rapidly evolving energy signatures from Earth, he made the most difficult recommendation of his career. The humans have demonstrated extraordinary adaptive capability and aggressive technological appropriation. They've already weaponized preliminary fusion technology against each other. Given access to Union propulsion systems, quantum matrices, and potentially our database fragments. He straightened, meeting the Council's collective gaze. "I recommend immediate containment." The words hung in the chamber like a death sentence. Containment was the euphemism for preventing a species from reaching the stars, through force if necessary. It had been implemented only twice in the Union's 15,000-cycle history, both times against predatory hive-minded species that threatened all other forms of life. "You're suggesting we treat these humans as a Class 1 threat?" Ziv's voice was incredulous. "Based on the capture of a single survey team. Based on what they've already done with that technology," Vexlor corrected, projecting new images onto the display. Human facilities blazing with energy signatures that shouldn't exist for centuries. Primitive spacecraft being retrofitted with components that bore unmistakable similarities to Union designs. Military installations suddenly equipped with energy shielding. At their current rate of adaptation, they will be capable of rudimentary interstellar travel within 5 years. Within 20, they could potentially match our defensive capabilities, and everything in their history suggests they will not come in peace. The Rigelian ambassador's skin paled to translucent. "If they can reverse engineer our technology this quickly, what happens if they capture a containment vessel?" "We must ensure that doesn't happen," Vexlor said grimly. "I recommend a comprehensive containment operation. Full-spectrum neutralization of their advanced research facilities, followed by targeted memory erasure of key scientists." The Council murmured uneasily. Such measures violated the Union's most sacred principles of non-interference. But the alternative, a potentially hostile species with Union technology, was unthinkable. "There is another option," came a voice from the back of the chamber. All eyes turned to Ambassador Lyertel of the Ascendancy, the eldest spacefaring race, known for their caution and wisdom. Direct diplomatic contact. Vexlor's tendrils twitched in alarm. "Ambassador, with respect, premature contact could be catastrophic. These humans are fractious, divided into competing nation-states. There is no unified authority with which to negotiate." Perhaps, Lyertel acknowledged, her ancient eyes unreadable. "But containment through force guarantees conflict. These humans have demonstrated remarkable capabilities already. Do we truly wish to make enemies of them?" The debate raged for 3 full cycles. In the end, a compromise was reached. A diplomatic mission would attempt contact with Earth's most influential nations. Meanwhile, Admiral Vexlor would assemble a containment fleet in the outer reaches of the solar system, ready to intervene should diplomacy fail. As Vexlor departed the council chamber, Science Officer Trillax fell into step beside him. "New intelligence, Admiral," she said quietly. "We've been monitoring their global information network. The humans are aware of us." Vexlor stopped abruptly. "Explain." "They've been systematically searching for our observation satellites. 3 have already gone dark, and—" She hesitated. "They've begun broadcasting a message into space, directly toward our nearest outpost." "What message?" Trillax activated her data slate. A human voice emerged, speaking in crudely approximated but perfectly understandable Union standard. "To the owners of the technology we've acquired, thank you. We've learned more in 6 months than in the previous 50 years. We know you're watching. We know you're coming. We'll be ready. This is humanity's formal request for diplomatic recognition. You have 30 days to respond before we continue our independent development program. Don't make us come find you." Vexlor felt a sensation he hadn't experienced since his days as a cadet. Cold, primal fear. "Inform the diplomatic mission," he said, "and double the size of the containment fleet." The reckoning. Admiral Vexlor stood on the bridge of the Union flagship Inexorable Justice, watching the blue-green world grow larger on the view screen. Earth, such an unassuming name for a planet that had thrown the entire Galactic Union into crisis. "Status of the diplomatic mission?" he asked. Communications Officer Mrenda consulted her console. "Still in progress, Admiral. 7 Earth days so far. The humans have assembled a coalition of their nation-states to engage in talks. And our containment assets, in position, cloaked, awaiting your command. 200 vessels surrounding the planet." Vexlor's tendrils coiled tightly against his neck, a sign of deep concern among his species. 200 vessels for a containment operation was unprecedented. For comparison, the Hive world's suppression had required only 30. Any further technological developments? Science Officer Trillax approached, her usually methodical movements now hurried. "Admiral, we've detected a significant energy surge at their lunar outpost." The view screen shifted to show Earth's lone satellite. There on the barren surface gleamed a facility that hadn't existed 3 months earlier, a sprawling complex of domes and towers, surrounded by a shimmering field that the sensors identified as a primitive but functional particle shield. "Impossible," Vexlor breathed. "They've established a permanent lunar base with defensive capabilities." "Yes, Admiral, and that's not all." Trillax's voice trembled slightly. "We've detected launches from Earth, small vessels, but they're using a propulsion system similar to our short-range shuttles. They've weaponized our technology already." "No, Admiral. They're evacuating, transferring their scientists and leadership to the lunar base." Vexlor felt his entire body grow cold. "They know we're here. They've detected our containment fleet." "Sir," interrupted Tactical Officer Brenzik, "the diplomatic mission is requesting emergency extraction. The humans have terminated negotiations." The view screen flickered, showing the diplomatic chamber on Earth. The Union's finest negotiators faced a panel of grim-faced humans. One human stood, addressing the Union diplomats directly. "We analyze your proposal," the human said, voice flat. "Technological quarantine in exchange for limited cultural exchange. Essentially, you're offering to keep us in a cage. This is unacceptable." Ambassador Lyertel's gentle voice responded. "We offer guidance, not constraint. Your species has advanced too rapidly through acquisition of technology you don't fully understand." "The dangers," interrupted the human, "are precisely why we need to advance quickly. Your Union isn't the only power in the galaxy, is it? We've accessed enough of your database to know about the swarm, the Void Heralds, the Mechacracy, threats that could annihilate our world while you debate protocol. Those threats are contained. For now." The human's expression hardened. "We've studied your history, Ambassador. 3 of your member worlds were destroyed before you developed adequate defenses against the swarm. How many humans would die while we wait for your approval to defend ourselves?" The transmission abruptly cut off. What happened? Vexlor demanded. They've activated some kind of jamming field. Communications Officer Miranda replied, frantically working her console. It's blocking all transmissions to and from the diplomatic mission. Extract them. Now. Vexlor's voice was steel. And prepare the containment fleet. Primary targets are their advanced research facilities and military installations. Minimal civilian casualties. Admiral, Trelax intervened. The humans have clearly anticipated our actions. The lunar base, the evacuation. They've been preparing for this confrontation. All the more reason to act swiftly. Vexlor turned to face his senior staff. I take no pleasure in this, but we cannot allow an unvetted species access to technologies they don't comprehend. The risk to the galactic community is too great. As the extraction shuttles descended toward Earth, the view screens erupted with new warnings. Energy signatures blossomed across the planet's surface. Weapons powering up, defensive systems activating. Admiral, called Tactical Officer Brenzik. The humans have launched countermeasures. Hundreds of small craft, rising from concealed silos. The view screen showed them, crude but effective missiles, streaking upward through the atmosphere. Not toward the extraction shuttles, but toward the cloaked containment fleet. Impossible, Vexlor whispered. They can't detect our vessels through the cloaking fields. They're not detecting the ships, Trelax realized aloud, her scientific mind racing ahead. They're detecting the gravitational distortion, just as they found our survey team. The missiles detonated before reaching the fleet, not close enough to damage the ships, but perfectly positioned to blanket space with an electromagnetic pulse that momentarily disrupted the cloaking fields. And in that moment of visibility, Earth struck. Energy beams lanced upward from the planet's surface, primitive by Union standards, but precisely targeted at the now visible containment vessels. Dozens of ships reported shield impacts, minor damage but nothing critical. It was a warning shot, not an all-out attack. Then came the transmission. On every frequency, in perfect Union standard. Attention, Galactic Union forces. This is General Elizabeth Zhang, Earth Defense Command. Your containment fleet has been targeted. Your diplomatic deception has been noted. We acknowledge your technological superiority, but assure you that we have sufficient capability to inflict unacceptable casualties on your forces. A woman appeared on screen, middle-aged by human standards, with sharp features and unwavering eyes. We propose alternative terms. Earth will join your union as a sovereign power with full technological access. We will share our innovations with the galactic community. We will abide by non-aggression protocols. But we will not be contained. The bridge of the inexorable justice fell silent. Admiral, Trelax said quietly, preliminary analysis suggests they're bluffing. Their weapons cannot penetrate our primary shields. We can proceed with containment. Vexlor studied the human on the screen. There was something in those eyes. Not fear, not desperation, but absolute certainty. General Zhang, he replied, opening a direct channel. This is Admiral Vexlor of the Galactic Union. Your species has demonstrated remarkable advancement, but also reckless development of technologies you cannot fully control. For the safety of all sentient life, including your own, we must insist on technological quarantine. Zhang's expression didn't change. We decline, Admiral. We have studied the fragments of your database. We know the Union operates on consensus. Tell me, have all 800 member worlds approved this containment operation? Vexlor froze. The human had identified the Union's greatest weakness, its ponderous political process. The truth was that barely 2/3 of the Council had supported containment, and many of those conditionally. Political considerations are irrelevant, he countered. The threat you pose is precisely why your containment will fail, Zhang interrupted. Because half your fleet doesn't believe we deserve containment. Because your own charter prohibits aggression against pre-interstellar species, except in cases of imminent threat. She leaned forward. We are not a threat to the Union. Admiral, we wish to join you, but we will not surrender our right to self-determination. Your sensors have confirmed we've evacuated our key personnel to our lunar base. Now, allow me to show you why. The view screen split to show a massive facility deep beneath Earth's surface. In its center stood a device that made Vexilor's blood run cold, a crude but functional quantum singularity generator. This is our insurance policy, John continued. If your containment fleet opens fire, this device activates. The resulting gravitational collapse will destroy Earth and create a shockwave that will cripple your fleet. We would rather destroy ourselves than live as prisoners. You would sacrifice your entire world. Vexilor couldn't keep the horror from his voice. Our civilization continues on Luna and Mars, John replied. This is our ultimatum. Admiral, recognize Earth as a sovereign power or deal with the consequences of your aggression. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vexilor found himself without a clear path forward. Union protocol dictated escalation of force against the human threat. Yet doing so would result in catastrophic losses, both human lives and Union personnel. Stand down the containment fleet, he ordered finally. Inform the Council we need new directives. As the fleet pulled back to a defensive posture, Vexilor requested a private communication channel with General John. Why? He asked simply when her face appeared. Why push your species so recklessly forward? You must know the dangers. Zhang's expression softened slightly. Because we had no choice, Admiral. Your survey team's records showed us what waits in the darkness between stars. The swarm, the void heralds, threats your Union barely contains. All the more reason for caution, for guidance. No, Zhang said firmly. All the more reason for innovation, for new approaches. Your Union has existed for 15,000 cycles, yet these threats persist. Perhaps what's needed isn't careful adherence to protocol, but the human capacity for unconventional solutions. She smiled then, the first genuine expression Vexilor had seen from her. We don't want to fight you, Admiral. We want to help you, but we cannot, will not, surrender our independence to do so. Vexilor studied the human, seeing not the primitive savage he had expected, but a leader making hard choices for her people's survival. A leader who had outmaneuvered the mighty Galactic Union with technological scraps and sheer determination. I will advocate for your position with the Council, he said finally. But know this, if humans ever become the threat I fear, I will return with a fleet 10 times this size. Zhang nodded. And if that day comes, we'll deserve it. But I believe our species will surprise you, Admiral. Not with our capacity for destruction, but with our capacity for creation. As the inexorable Justice broke orbit, returning to Union space to face the political firestorm that awaited, Vexilor found himself hoping that General Zhang was right. The archives of the Galactic Union recorded the discovery of Sol 3 as nothing more than a routine astronomical survey. They would need to amend that entry. Earth had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.